What if the only thing standing between you and a completely different life was just a single thought? Today, we're diving into an incredible story of transformation that shows how one simple shift in perspective can change literally everything.
Napoleon Hill famously wrote, "What you think about, you become." It's a really simple idea, right? But is it true? Well, the story we're exploring today puts that very concept to the ultimate test.
But that brings up a pretty big question. I mean, if it were that simple, wouldn't we all be living our dream lives? Why do so many of us feel stuck, just kind of spinning our wheels and unable to change our circumstances? The answer, believe it or not, lies in a simple story about a beggar at a train station.
So our story kicks off in what you might call the ordinary world, a place that's defined not by actual walls, but by something much stronger, the prison of a limiting mindset. Picture this, a super busy railway station. All the noise, the chaos, people rushing everywhere. And right in the middle of it all, there's a beggar whose entire world, his entire survival, revolves around one single action, asking for money. His whole identity isn't about who he is, but about what he takes.
The very word for what he's looking for is alms. And what does that mean? It's just money or food given to the poor. But think about that for a second. That word itself kind of locks him into this role of powerlessness. He's defined as someone who can only receive, never contribute. And every single coin that drops in his cup just reinforces that identity.
But then something happens, something completely unexpected, an encounter that delivers a question so disruptive, it just shatters his whole view of himself and the world. This is his call to adventure.
A well-dressed businessman stops, but instead of just dropping a coin, he asks a question that must have hit the beggar like a ton of bricks. Have you ever given anything to anyone? It's such a simple question, but for a man whose entire existence is built on receiving, it's completely foreign.
And his reaction is just pure shock. The word is startled. It means to feel sudden shock or alarm. And you can bet he was. This question wasn't just out of the blue. It was a direct challenge to his reality. It suggested that maybe, just maybe, he should have something to give, which attacks the very foundation of his identity as a taker. Then the businessman lays out this philosophy that's the total opposite of pity. He says, "I believe in exchange." He explains that value has to be met with value. The message is crystal clear. If you want to receive, you've got to find something to offer first.
Man, that encounter just leaves the beggar stunned. And for days, all he does is think. This is that moment, the turning point where he crosses the threshold from his old way of thinking into a world of new possibilities.
And what's so cool about this is how clearly you can see the shift. It's like his mind literally moves from the left column to the right one. He goes from constantly focusing on what can I get to asking a totally new question, what can I give? He stops seeing himself as empty-handed and starts searching for the value he can offer.
And then he finds it, his answer. And it's not some grand, expensive thing. It's a simple wildflower, probably one he walked past 1,000 times. He decides that for every single coin he receives, he's going to offer a flower in return. In that small, forgotten flower, he found his value. This one tiny change in his actions, which was driven by that huge change in his mindset, leads to an absolutely incredible reward. And we're not just talking about more money. We're talking about a completely new identity.
So, sometime later they run into each other again. But this time, the man proudly offers a flower in exchange for the coin. The businessman sees the change instantly, and he gives him a new title, a new identity, right there on the spot. He says, "You are no longer a beggar. You have become a businessman." Just look at how fast this all happened. In a matter of weeks, his whole self-perception shifts from beggar to trader. This new identity becomes his engine, propelling him forward. And just 6 months after that first encounter, he's the owner of a successful flower business, miles away from that railway station. 6 months later, they meet for a third time.
And this time, the businessman is completely astonished. I mean, totally amazed and deeply impressed. He can hardly believe that the confident, well-dressed flower merchant standing right in front of him is the same man he met on that platform.
And here it is, the core lesson of the whole story, perfectly summed up by the man himself. He figured out the secret: giving comes before receiving. And even more powerful, he understood that his circumstances never defined him. He was always a businessman, he just hadn't seen it yet.
Okay, so this is a really powerful story, but the real question is, how do we actually apply this lesson to our own lives? Let's break down how you can take this idea and turn it into practical steps you can start using today. It really boils down to these 3 simple habits. First, you've got to find your flower. It doesn't have to be some huge thing. It could be a skill you have, a kind word, or just giving someone your full attention. Second, give it away first, without expecting anything back. This is the key to flipping that switch in your brain. And third, you have to start seeing yourself differently. Not as someone who's waiting to get something, but as a valuable contributor.
And you, your flower, can be any of these small things. Offering a genuine compliment. That costs you nothing, but it creates real value for someone else. Sharing a skill you have, recommending a great book, or even just putting your phone down and giving someone your undivided attention. These are all acts of giving that shift you into that contributor mindset.
So let's just pause here for a second and think about this. Think about your job, your relationships, your personal goals. Where are you holding back? Where are you waiting to receive something first? A promotion, a thank you, the perfect moment, before you really give your best.
And that brings us to the most important question of all. The truth is, everyone has value to offer. Every single one of us. So the real question is, what's your wildflower? What is that unique gift, that special something that you can start sharing with the world? Not tomorrow, but today.